أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and Ramadan Kareem to all our lovely viewers for joining me on Youth Matters with me, your host, Sakina Habib. Now, as for today, I would like to, of course, welcome the holy month of Ramadan. And look what I'm having here. Oh, it's a lovely date. Delicious. Oops, I'm sorry. I forgot that some of you might still be fasting while I'm munching on this yummy date here. Actually, I just happened to open my fast right now due to our time zone differences here. So let me show you what I'm actually having. These are amazing dates that, my mom recently sent me from Saudi Arabia. Okay, and if you can have a look at them, they have an almond in it and they're dipped in honey and there are some sesame seeds around them. So, this is a really yummy and a healthy snack that one can have in the month of Ramadan, don't you think? Now, I know when we enter Ramadan, more than looking forward to the spirituality aspect, we to some extent look forward to the food part as well, the iftar, which is of course the main highlight for most of us, if not all, during this month. So, we begin to make these imaginary, dreamy lists of the most favorite dishes that we want to devour on without really focusing on the fact whether it's even healthy or not. Am I right? Of course I am. I'm speaking with experience. So let's do something right now. Let's make this Ramadan healthy for you and for myself. If we can eat healthy, then we can also focus on our ibadas much better, don't you think? So today on our first Ramadan series, we have a special guest joining me from Calgary, Canada. She is a culinary nutrition expert, creator of Fuel with Food, and makes eating healthy and lasting. Without much further ado, I would like to welcome Sister Mona Jabbar, well known as the real Mona Jabbar on her social media platforms. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mona, and welcome on Youth Matters.
Wa alaikum salam, Sakina. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah, Ramadan Kareem. I hope your Ramadan is going well and I hope that your fasts are going well. And I'm sorry that I had a date in front of you. I hope it didn't tempt you so much. But the idea about today was that we need to talk about our healthy eating styles in the month of Ramadan. And so to begin with, I want to ask you that how can I actually make my Ramadan healthy?
Well, first of all, Ramadan Kareem to you too. And so this is actually quite simple. I feel like eating healthy has become so complicated. And it's a very broad question, but it's a very important one. Now, to make it very simple to answer this question, I have this abbreviation, SOC, SOC. These are the things that you want to avoid. It's so much easier to focus and apply to get rid of the unhealthy, harmful things than it is to focus on things that you want to add to your diet, because that's very foreign and it's a big change for a lot of people. So SOC, S-O-C. With S, that is sugars, right? So anything that is like a refined sugar. This includes refined rice, refined flours, refined white sugar, all that kind of stuff. So the reason for that is because if you look at something in its whole form, let's say rice, and it's got the bran, and this is when it's brown, right? It's got the bran, it's got the fiber, it's got a little bit of protein and minerals. When you strip it of that, it's refined. And this refers to as well as the flour, right? Like whole wheat versus white flour, brown sugar versus white sugar. Now, the problem with that is when it's white or refined and you consume it, it spikes your blood sugars. So it makes you feel like you're super full. And then what happens is your body has nothing to actually digest or strip from it. And so you crash right away. And so what you want to do is you want to avoid that. That's the S. Then you got O, which is oils. And by this, I mean the unhealthy oils, right? You want to avoid deep fried foods completely. because you are just going to be super dehydrated with that. I know this is really
And that
hard for a
really
lot of
happens.
cultures.
Yeah,
Totally. So
exactly.
you can just kind of like, if you got an air fryer, try air frying or just bake it in the oven. But deep fried foods really just dehydrate you, and you're already so dehydrated when you're fasting that you really want to take advantage of the time that you break your fast to hydrate yourself as much as possible, not dehydrate yourself. And also, you want to avoid the inflammatory oils when I talk
Mhm.
about for oils, like canola oil or vegetable oil, sunflower oil. All of these oils are super heavily processed, and they've even got things like deodorizers in it and all that kind of stuff. It is a really harmful oil. It's super inflammatory, so you want to avoid these inflammatory oils and deep fried foods. And our last letter is C. So SOC, this is caffeine. Okay, so you want to avoid sugar, coffee again, sorry. And the reason for this is because it's a diuretic, right? So again, you are stripping your body of all the water that it needs. To give you an example, for every 1 cup of coffee that you have, you need an additional 2 cups of water to drink to make up for it and to balance it. So if you generally have a 24-hour period to drink, let's say 8 cups of water is your goal, you're now limiting yourself to when you break your fast. Let's say that's 5, 6 hours to get that 8 hours, 8 glasses of water. And now if you're taking a cup of water, that's 10 cups that you're trying to get in your little 6 hour period, right? So SOC is what I'm going to tell you.
That's amazing. You've broken it down very accurately and very nicely. I think everyone can understand it's very easy. But then, of course, to work on it is quite a challenge. For example, as you mentioned about cutting down on the C part, caffeine. I mean, I need to have a cup of tea or a coffee, during iftar. Otherwise, I personally don't feel energetic, So, as you said, then to balance it out, you have to drink water, like you said, to drink 2 cups of water if you're having 1 cup of coffee, right? So that balances out the system. So yeah, if we can work on that, then yeah, I guess people you can take this advice from Sister Mona, right? Okay, now Mona, let's move on to the next question. And that is that when we talk about eating healthy, so, often people assume that they need to cut down on everything apart from veggies, salads, and the fruits. So, to what extent is this true? And if it's not, can you tell us what does a healthy eating lifestyle actually require?
So, to an extent, this is true. Fruits and vegetables are definitely vital to have optimal health. Now, unfortunately, we don't give our bodies the justice. We do it an injustice by filling mostly on carbs, like bread and rice, which is okay. But we're not giving it the nutrients that it needs, right? Fruits and vegetables definitely have a lot more powerful healing properties to it that you want to incorporate into your diet. And there are a lot of easy ways to do this. You don't have to completely cut out carbs. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's not like a processed, refined version. Just kind of try to limit it, right? And then add things like a salad to the side of your meals. You can add more veggies to your wraps and sandwiches, even if it's just like lettuce. If you're gonna add a little bit of lettuce to your sandwich that you don't typically put, that's a great way to add greens to it. Adding some tomatoes to your burger, like just really try putting in some veggies wherever you can. If you're making a soup, add extra veggies in it. And if you're just going to blend it up, you won't even feel it. You won't even taste it. You can even do curries and rices. You can do all these things and just add in extra vegetables wherever you can. Just be creative, right? You can even put it in like your omelets, just wherever you can. Even if you're baking, sometimes I throw in like spinach with my chocolate and I blend it up when I make muffins and stuff. Like, just throw it in whenever you can. Now, to answer the second part of your question, it really is that it's a lifestyle, right? People think that you can have your pantry full of just refined, processed stuff, and still think that you can really incorporate a healthy lifestyle. You can make some healthy choices here and there, which is definitely great. But in order to have a healthy lifestyle, it truly is that. It's a lifestyle change, right? So the biggest thing, if I can tell you, what to do, it would be to get rid of the heavily processed food in your pantry. And number two, cook from scratch and eat at home. So try your best to cut out eating out at restaurants, takeout, delivery, all that kind of stuff, because you'd be surprised how much of that food is made out of the food that I mentioned to avoid the SOC, the S, and the O. A lot of it, if not all of it, is all processed. You rarely see them using organic, whole wheat, or brown rice, any of that kind of stuff, right? It's all the refined version, and it, most, if not all of it, unless it's like heavily marketed as healthy, they're all using the inflammatory oils to cook with and to deep fry with. So definitely avoid eating out as much as possible, and I highly recommend learning how to cook and cooking from scratch at home.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing those points. And of course, as we as we take this topic further, we will be showing some of your recipes as well today, so that people can benefit and they can, try those at home. And so, yeah, I know for a fact that you're a busy mom, obviously, and keeping up with children's meal arrangements on a daily basis can be a daunting task. So, how do you manage and what meals do you prep for them that can also be suitable for the children audience, especially in the month of Ramadan?
Right, so this is a great question. My eldest is 5 years old and my youngest is one. So in the past few years, it's been a huge adjustment to learn how to fast during this month, let alone do the ibadas and all that with young children. So what I've learned is to pack their food in the morning. So I'll make them their breakfast, whether that's like an omelet sandwich or overnight oats or anything like that. While I'm making their breakfast, I'm also prepping 2 containers per kid. Now, these containers are divided. One of them is for a snack and one of them is for lunch. And each of them will have in each container at least one fruit and one vegetable. So that could be like strawberries and a cucumber. Okay, at the very least, you want to have that, as well as like a carby thing. So, like a peanut butter and jam sandwich. And when I say peanut butter and jam, I mean the bread is spelt bread made out of spelt flour with no sugars. The jam is a chia jam, so it's made out of chia seeds and no added sugar. And the peanut butter is just peanuts in it. There's no added sugars or oils or salt, right? So that's the kind of peanut butter sandwich that we offer them, for example, as a carb. And then sometimes we'll even throw in some chocolate. And there's nothing wrong with chocolate, but hold on, hear me out. Chocolate in its whole form. So we give them dark chocolate, organic, fair trade kind of stuff. None of that processed added sugars and refined ingredients and all that kind of additives, right? So that's what you want to do, and that's what I do for my kids. So that helps me save time being in the kitchen all throughout the day, prepping their lunch and prepping their snacks. And when they're hungry, you just take it out of the fridge, or if it's a really good sealed container, you keep it on the counter. And if they're old enough, they can grab it themselves when they're ready. And this way, they're lasted up until iftar, and they can eat with you if they're old enough and it's not too late. And this saves you a bunch of time for being in the kitchen and cooking when you're fasting, and it's super hard.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with you because what happens is that in Ramadan usually what happens with the ladies is that they spend so much time in the kitchen prepping meals for their family members and for their children that they forget the actual essence of this month, and you're very
Yeah.
right, especially when it comes to young children. They have so many demands, and they're a bit fussy and this and that, so you need to really cater to their needs, and that becomes very difficult. So I really like the few ideas that you've shared with us on today's episode, and I hope that the mothers who are watching us, the audience, yeah, I hope that they can take these few tips, and it will be helpful for them in the kitchen. So for our next for our next part, which is the most exciting part, is that we are going to be showing 2 healthy meal recipes on today's program, which are done by Sister Mona herself. So
Spinach and feta muffins. I cannot wait to share this with you today. So first you're going to start off with your dry ingredients, which is flour, salt, and baking powder. Then you're going to add some cow feta cheese, and you're going to throw in some trimmed spinach. Then in a separate bowl, you're going to mix your milk, your egg, and your melted butter. And don't forget the dill. Now you make a well in your dry ingredients and add in the liquid into there and mix it all together until it's well combined, but do not overmix it. It should look something like this. Use parchment liners to fill your muffin tray and bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Let cool for a few minutes before you dig in and devour these. Enjoy. How to make these delicious date nut bars. They're versatile, so you can cut them in any shape you like. Everything needs to be just added to a food processor, and it's only got 7 ingredients, so it's super easy and no baking is required. The recipe calls for honey, but if you're vegan, you can use maple syrup instead. It also calls for dried cherries, but you can use any dried fruit of your choice. And as always, this is definitely kid-friendly, as you can see here. Once it's done freezing in the freezer with some parchment paper, this is where you can pop it out and then chop it up into any shape your little heart desires and serve.
And Sister Mona, you can, tell everybody what are some of the key ingredients that you have used, and what are some of the benefits, probably, and anything that you would like to share regarding these videos.
Right, so the first recipe would be your overnight oats. So I mentioned this. This is sometimes things that we give to our kids for breakfast and ourselves, and it's a great idea for suhoor too. When you wake up in the middle of the night and you just want to grab something, this is ready to go. So what you do basically is you grab a bunch of rolled oats, preferably organic, not the oatmeal that comes in the packets that are full of sugars and added flavors to it. Okay, this is just rolled oats. You put it in a container. You mix in some chia seeds, some hemp seeds, some flax seeds. These are all great to eat because they are anti-inflammatory. Remember how I mentioned that we're eating foods that are very inflammatory and you want to avoid it? Well, you also want to increase the foods that you're eating that are anti-inflammatory. So these seeds will do that. They also have protein and fiber, which will help keep you full for longer. You mix it together and then you add the liquids in it, which will be absorbed, right? So then you can add milk, a milk of your choice. I usually add unsweetened organic almond milk, and some maple syrup or any sweetener of your choice. 1 to 2 tablespoons is fine. You can add raw honey or coconut sugar, any of that kind of stuff. I like to use maple syrup. Once you mix it all together, that's it. You can top it off with whatever toppings. So this can be chopped strawberries, blueberries, shredded coconut, really whatever you want. You top it off, seal that container, and put it in the fridge. If you leave it for at least 4 hours to overnight, it will absorb all of that liquid, and literally all you have to do is take it out of the fridge and eat it, and it's good to go. And sometimes there's variations of this. You can make it like a peanut butter and jam one, where you add peanut butter and jam and mix it in. You can put some cinnamon in it with some apples, and really you can just be creative and add any combination of flavors you want to this.
That's great. So just a random question, yeah. If you don't have maple syrup or these shredded coconut and stuff, what are some other alternatives that the others can use? Because sometimes you can't always be creative. So what advice, what tip would you give them?
So I think the biggest thing, no matter where you are in the world, is to use what's locally available, right? So here I can go to the farmer's market and we have raw honey that's available. I also live in Canada where maple syrup is like huge, so that's a great source of sweetener. But we don't have coconuts that are grown here, right? So there are places that is available. So basically use whatever sweetener you have available, but in its raw natural form, right? That's why I say raw honey, not pasteurized honey. So whatever sweetener you have local to where you are in its whole form, that's not processed and refined, that's a great way to use the sweetener. You can even use dates if you want to blend it up and put it in to the liquid. And really, sorry, and as for the toppings, use any toppings you want, any kind of fruits, and also nuts and seeds. Nuts have protein in it, and it's also got a lot of fiber, and these are great things that keep you full for longer during the month of Ramadan. So adding any kind of nuts or seeds on the top will help you stay full for longer.
Thank you, Sister Mona, for sharing that. Now, can you share any 5 benefits of healthy eating with regards to keeping up active in Shahr Ramadan, because as it is, people usually become lethargic in this month instead of becoming more active. I don't know. It's our diets just suddenly change. They switch to something else. Like we begin to stuff ourselves during iftar time, and then we don't have that much energy to stay up, and perform other activities that are very important. So, can you share any five benefits of healthy eating?
Yeah, so I think some of the benefits is that really you're eating more mindfully, right? So in my program, there's an entire chapter called mindful eating. It's learning how to really pay attention to the food that you're eating, the textures in your mouth, the flavors, and looking at it and really appreciating where the food comes from and eating it and really acknowledging when you're full too. What happens when we're mindlessly eating, we're watching TV and we're just eating a bag of chips and whatever. First of all, not only are you gaining a bunch of extra calories because you're not paying attention to that your full signals, but you're eating foods that you wouldn't typically eat, right? And you're not appreciating it. So it helps you be more mindful. Also, you tend to eat more foods that will give you more energy, right? If you only have 2 hours to eat, you're not going to eat a bag of chips during that. You're going to eat a good, wholesome meal to give you that energy and to heal your body so that you're prepared for the next 24 hours, right? So you're eating better. And also, you're less lethargic as a result of that. So that's number 3. You're less lethargic, right? You're not filling off of donuts and chocolate and cake and all that kind of stuff. Lastly, you're letting your body regenerate, right, and cleanse itself. There's actually like retreats that you can go to where people fast because it is so healing for you. And also, this when you eat, it actually stunts the detoxification in your body. So allowing your body to detoxify and your organs to work a little bit harder under this slight amount of pressure. This is really, really good for your body.
Yeah, you know what? I think sometimes people they sort of what do you say? I don't know what's the word. It's not coming to my mind right now. But like they sort of lose control when they see a lot of dishes on the table. And there's this thing that's called the hunger of the eye, right? Like it's the
Mm-hmm.
eye that's eating the food, and then they just keep on munching and stuffing themselves without realizing that they've overstuffed themselves. I think over here, what I would just like to add is that we should also add a routine of exercising, like a very light exercise, not a must that one has to go out and like play football or badminton. I mean, these are good activities. Please do. I'm not saying don't. Okay, badminton is amazing. One should. Squash is amazing. And usually what happens in Ramadan is that we do have these sport activities as well in our communities, in our centers, and all of that after mosque programs. So families get together, and people do take part. But then for those who can't, for example, make time for these big sport activities, one can just go for a short walk outside their house, or in the park or something like that. And I think that is also something nice. One can even just inhale and exhale, even that's a good exercise. Just breathe in, breathe out, even that's something good. Yoga is very good. One can just be at home, and one can do yoga. And of course, namaz prayer is the best exercise for everybody and anybody. So yeah. Now, next question is that, Sister Mona, why is it that most people switch to a complete different diet in Ramadan as opposed to the normal days, the way we usually eat?
Well, just to that point that you were mentioning, I just want to give like a really easy, rule of thumb for exercising during the month of Ramadan. I think this is much more relatable for women and mothers specifically. If you wouldn't recommend a pregnant person to do it, I wouldn't do it. So before you get pregnant, if you were like an athlete and you're a professional football player, it's okay to continue to do that when you get pregnant. But if you've never done that before and you become pregnant, there's no way you should be starting that, right? So whatever you're used to doing before the month of Ramadan, you should be able to continue doing that with a slightly less, extent to it. So if you used to sprint a lot, you can still run a little bit during the month of Ramadan. But I think walking is definitely something that everyone can and should do every single day. Yeah, and to
Exactly.
your question, I think um, it might actually be a little bit of a misconception that people eat healthier during the month of Ramadan. And the reason for this, it's similar to intermittently fasting. I'll use an example. People do this, non-Muslims, even Muslims throughout the year, where you limit how much you eat based on the time period, right? Now, there's a misconception that that's healthier, when in fact that is allowing your body to detoxify, and you are sometimes limiting your calories during the day. However, it is what you're eating during that time that matters most. Some people are still filling themselves on harmful processed ingredients during that period. And what you want to do is make sure that that food that you're eating during that period is the healing foods, right? Not the inflammatory, processed, refined stuff, but the whole foods and the anti-inflammatory foods. So I think that's something that we should be focusing on during the period that we're not fasting.
So now, if we would talk about some good power snacks, okay, what are some good power snacks that you could suggest to fill me up at suhoor time, especially, and yet let me stay active throughout the day. I think when it comes to suhoor meal preps, sometimes I don't know. It depends person to person. Some people, who stay up like till late nights are really active, and they're like prepping the suhoor meals. And as for some people who are, like busy people, for example, working people, who sleep early, for example, they don't get enough time to prepare suhoors for themselves. And then, they just grab whatever is on the table, whatever was left over from iftar, and, just fill yourself up and, pray your namaz, your salah, and that's it, go to bed. And sometimes some people even miss out on suhoor, which is not good, of course. So what are your views on that, Sister Mona?
All right, so I have some really easy solutions for you. Well, first of all, it's the recipe that I shared earlier. That's great because it's in the fridge. You just need to grab a spoon and it's ready to go. You can also make things ahead. There's these things called fat bombs. You can find a whole different variation of it, but you can even make one that I made with 3 ingredients. 4 if you want to add a sweetener to it, which I recommend if you're not used to not eating without sweetness to food. So you want something that's filling, right? So these are called fat bombs. You can use raw cacao, which is just chocolate powder, melted coconut oil, or ghee, which is clarified butter, but I would use coconut oil, and something like puffed quinoa. Quinoa is a plant-based protein, and it's actually one of the very few complete protein that's plant-based. Okay, so it has all the amino acids, which usually you can only get from meat. So quinoa is a really good plant-based protein to keep you full for longer. You mix all of those 3 together, and then you can either put them in mold or you can put them in muffin liners, and you put them in the freezer, and then you just eat them like that, and they're super good. That's where you can add the sweetener too. So those will keep you full for longer. They're easy to eat. You can make smoothies. Those are the easiest. So you can add a liquid base, such as milk or water, or coconut water, any of that kind of stuff. You can add a bunch of frozen or fresh fruits and veggies to it. You can add nuts and seeds to it. And if it tastes really bitter, you add some sweetener to it. And you're really getting a powerhouse of nutrients in a smoothie like that. You can also do toast with some almond butter, and you can put really we've done apple, but you can even add banana or peaches, any kind of sliced fruit on top, and sprinkle some cinnamon on there, and that's a really good nutritionally dense meal right there. Um, and also, what you mentioned is dates, right? I love to have my dates with walnuts in it because I love the crunch, and we dip it in some peanut butter, and it tastes like a Snickers bar to me, to be honest. So, just really making these things in advance that are really easy to make and easy to grab. You can also make muffins, and stuff them with whatever. You can add spinach to it, you can add hemp seeds to it, whatever you need. But if you have these stored in the fridge or on your counter, you literally just need to grab it like that. Don't need to heat it up, don't need to mix anything, and it's good to go.
You know what? I would have really loved if we could actually have had a live demonstration of all these yummy ingredients that you're mentioning. Because as you're speaking, I'm like literally visualizing all the ingredients, being put one by one. So Inshallah. I know for
I'd
those
love to
who
do
are
that one
probably
day.
fasting right now, they must be like, oh my God, why has this episode even been put up today? We're like so hungry and starving right now. But it's good to have that self control. Okay, so control till your iftar time,
Yeah.
and inshallah in the future, inshallah, Sister Mona, I would really love to see those demonstrations from you, because mashallah you have amazing concepts, and I really love the ingredients that you've been using in your foods. So it would be really nice if people can actually see it, and the outcome would motivate them to make these dishes. Yeah, they're really amazing. I really love all these things that you've mentioned.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay,
sister.
now
Inshallah, the future is bright.
yes, of course, definitely it will be. Why not? Now, yeah. So for the viewers, if you could share a few nutrition tips to healthy eating. Yeah, nutrition tips.
Right. So I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, I just want to remind you about SOC, right? Those are the things you want to avoid. I think if you live by this guide, it would be really easy. So that's sugar, oils, inflammatory oils, and coffee, right? If you can prevent that, and then if you want to also include things, you really want to focus on fat, fiber, and protein. Okay. These are the things that will not only heal your body and have you live your most optimally healthy life, but it'll also keep you full for longer, right? Because as I said, those stuff that spike and then drop, you want to avoid those, but the fat, fiber, and protein will actually help slow down the absorption and slow down the release of sugars and keep you full for longer. So the things to avoid and then the things to incorporate. And also, as I mentioned, try your best to avoid eating out and cook everything from scratch.
Inshallah, I hope that all of us can work on that. It's a very good, of course, solution, and yeah, it's. I hope we can, work on it. Thank
Inshallah.
you so much, Sister Mona, for joining me on today's program. I think you've really shared very valid and insightful points, and I really loved your research. Like it was very, very educational, very informative. Yeah. So I thank you, and I'm so happy, so pleased that you made time. Thank you so much for joining today. And is there a final message that you would like to give our viewers for today's program?
I think it's
Final
just,
message by Sister Mona.
you know, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you guys to get through this month and make you more mindful with each food decision that you make. I hope that you look at that meal and you really become more mindful of what you're eating. And inshallah, by the end of 30 days or 30, 29, you're able to apply these changes and habits and make that healthy lifestyle that we spoke about, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Sister Mona. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our Ramadan, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our amals in this holy month. And thank you. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us today. And I hope that this episode was exciting, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the recipes that Sister Mona shared, and of course about the healthy lifestyle that we spoke about. It's very important because we need to take care of our health, right? So I hope that all of you enjoyed, and inshallah, if you want to explore such topics more in the coming episodes, do let me know. And also, if anybody would like to volunteer in sharing their recipes, please do let me know, and inshallah we'll share it. And last but not least, I would like to wish you all a very happy, blessed Ramadan. Take care of yourselves. This is your host, Sakina Habib, signing off. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.